Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to repeat a little bit of what is being shared in chat, but there's no need to sign in via the chat. We have a list of registrants and participants. So if you know of someone that registered that couldn't attend or will join later, we're using that list to send out all communication. So we are recording this training. We're going to go ahead and get started and go through some of those norms. This is the USDE ESSER annual report training. Some of you remember or have fond memories of last year completing this federal requirement, which much has changed. So we, prior to this, had put out data collection tools and documents, but we now have the online system launched for LEAs today. So we will cover some of this, but I just want to thank you for being here. I know it's a Friday before many people's spring break. We are capturing this as a recording. We will be able to share it with you. So please don't let this dampen your spring break plans if you're taking them. We know those are well deserved, but we appreciate you being here and sharing this resource once it's posted with your colleagues. Our training and guidance disclaimer, I'm not going to read this, but I just want you to be aware again, and this is all based off our current knowledge of the subject matter at this time. While we do not anticipate any more changes to this report from USDE, this training material is revised from time to time. The slides we will share, I will put those in the file share in the chat, and we will send them out as well. Can often change and will change from time to time. So want you to be aware of that. Again, this is guidance. We still will refer you to our posted FAQ and all federal and state rules, regulations, and guidance that are posted, which aren't always captured in these slides exactly as they are written. Just a couple of norms and reminders for you. Please use the Q&A function in Zoom to post questions and answers. We are tracking and adding FAQs based off of that section. If you post a content-specific question in chat, we will lose it after today. So even if those questions are not answered, we need you to put them in Q&A so that we can better capture them and respond to them, or send them to USD for further guidance. So please use Q&A. As those questions populate, you can use the thumbs up feature to see a question you do not want to retype and vote it to the top. When we get to the end of the presentation, we will go from the top answering questions that are voted up to try to help as many people as we can in the time we have today. Again, no separate sign-in for attendance here today. We're tracking that all through Zoom, so registered participants will receive all follow-up. Recording and slides will be provided to all of our registered participants through our GovDelivery e-bulletin. Just before we launched today, we refreshed our list with all of the ESSER contacts we have, so we are sending this out to a very large group. We expect to send out to have the recording ready at the latest by Tuesday. We're going to try to get that completed for you after today's training. So we will have a hard stop when we finish to try to get that video recording ready and distributed for folks through that GovDelivery listserv. But again, Tuesday at the latest to try to account for any video or technical issues. A quick agenda. This is our second training for USD annual reporting. We gave general training and guidance, and now we have some more specific information in an online system. So we're going to review some information that's going to be kind of a repeat of updates and resources. We will then go into the actual online system that you will use to report this data. And then we will review some Q&A and guidance resources and try to answer as many questions as we're able to in the Q&A at the end. So we will not pause to answer those until we go through this, these portions of the agenda. So our reporting updates and resources, we just have a few slides here that have been shared before to reiterate tasks, due dates, and general guidance around this report before we jump into the online system. So you can continue to add questions to the Q&A, but these slides will be provided, and you have a version of these that has already been shared. These are just modified to fit today's time frame. Most important question, most important thing to remember for this report, the ESSER annual reports are annual based on these dates. This has been confirmed with USDE. This is exactly from their guidance, but you will be reporting in actual 5 areas of ESSER. So again, those that did ESSER 1 reporting last year, USDE multiplied this by 5, so we have 5 separate reports. This includes ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ARP ESSER 3 for your grant programs if you're a grantee in any one of those, and then two other reports, cross-act, which would be questions you would answer that apply to all 3 of those, whether it's CARES, CRISA, or ARP, and then a specific interventions report. So 5 report sections. The reporting period does not change. So what you want to be mindful of is there's a little difference from ESSER 1 to the others, but the reporting periods or periods you will use for collecting data end August 31st of last year. Again, all of the data you report is up to August 31st of last year. So drawdown, activities, all items in these reports for the USDE annual report follow these timelines. For ESSER 1, it will actually start in October 1 and go through August 31st to account for the overlap in ESSER 1 to ESSER 2. Your ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 reports, which again will be separate, will be from September 1st, 2020 to October 31st of 2021. So you are not reporting any activity, any drawdown, anything after those dates. So this should be retrospective data collection where needed, nothing after August 31st, 2021. To give you a preview and pulled directly from USDE guidance, this is the second annual report for ESSER 1. Again, that is a reporting period for October 1st through the end of the state fiscal year for us, August 31st. ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, this is the first annual report for those programs. Again, is based off the state fiscal year. So again, I'm going to go back. These reporting periods for the annual reports end August 31st, 2021. We have some view of things to come, up to 5 annual reports in ESSER 3. A quick look at our reporting form timeline. Today is our statewide training. From March 11th through April 11th will be your time to continue to collect and also complete your online forms for reporting that we'll review in a minute. All of these online forms, this will be an open reporting period for that month. You will be able to, at any point, go in, update, and save information in your dynamic report forms. We will close after April 11th to begin aggregating data. So once you hit save or submit, you are done when April 11th happens or April 12th. You will not hit a final submit button in this month. You will have access to your report forms throughout the month of reporting. We are required to begin uploading information by May 16th to the federal government. And we do not have a date yet, but this information will be posted publicly to their website. So we will be aggregating much of this data, validating and reviewing through that time up to May 16th. Again, the due date is April 11th. We would not shorten your reporting period because we delayed opening of this report. This is the timeline. April 11th is when those reports are due. Please post all of your questions in the Q&A so we don't miss them. We are very grateful that one of our ESC partners developed this resource. I realize at first glance it might create some anxiety, but we want to point back to one of the questions we will address, which is, when do you count or report expenditures? Expenditures are based off the drawdown date. Your drawdowns in this reporting period ending August 31st, 2021 are the drawdowns you would be reporting. So if you would like to follow these lines with me, at the top, we have reporting periods broken out 2 and 3, second annual report. And this is a visual that one of our ESE partners was kind enough to share, where you can see that if you had an August 3rd, 2020 item expenditure, you drew down just about a year later, and on August 2nd, 2021, this would fit in the current reporting period. It is not based off when that expenditure necessarily happened any longer. This is based on when you draw down. These definitions are taken from the USDE Guides. I'm not going to read each of them, but I want to point out that if, as we show some resources, you will see some definition resources to assist you. The one I do want to point out, again, back to that visual, is expended. For this year 2 reporting, this is the definition provided by USDE, which may differ from what you are accustomed to if you did SR1 reporting last year. Expended for purposes of this annual report is the actual spending of money or an outlay. For this reporting, reimbursements that are made in the current reporting period that reimburse expenditures made prior to the start of the reporting period or on or after March 13, 2020 are considered expenditures. This means if you drew down within the reporting period up to August 31st, 2021, that is an expenditure you would include in this report, nothing after. Again, you'll have additional definitions provided by USDE. As is always the case, if you have questions about any of this guidance or any of these definitions, we have our FAQ submission form we will share. One item we will also point you to before we get into the online forum is that this year 2 reporting will require you to collect and re-report your year 1 amounts. Currently, for the state of Texas, we received no needed corrections to what was approved in last year's USDE ESSER1 reports. So throughout these report forms, when you are reporting from previous ESSER1 annual reporting, we are recommending that you use this public link. I'm going to look for a nod from Natalie or Nick if you're seeing the page. So this link is embedded through our FAQs and throughout. This is what all of your efforts last year culminated in for USD at the public site. You would go to this page and then you would search for your LEA. Currently, what you would see is a breakdown of expenditures by items and a total. This is the total expenditure amount for year 1 that you would be working from for this report. It's important to note that this may not align to your original submission last year. It may not align to your local documentation when you submitted reports about a year ago. This is what has been approved and been final and is posted. So through much validation and data cleaning, these are the dollar amounts you use when including ESSER1 annual report expenditure data during this reporting cycle. Going to go back to the slide. Again, this has been approved by USD and should be used in your year 2 reporting. We have not been required to make any corrections. If there is some inconsistency in your data, we will have a help desk form, but we will not be correcting any of this data as it is approved by USDE. Again, these links will be provided throughout. Post all of your questions in Q&A. You will give us a moment, please, to switch over. I want one reminder, and then I will stop sharing, and we will have our colleague Adrian Woods go to the online reporting. But before we go to walkthrough, just want to clarify a few other points. We are using this data because it is what was submitted and approved by USDE based off their reporting requirements in year 1. Year 2 reporting, including definition of expenditure, the reporting schedule, and all other items have changed significantly since last year. You are using the approved data from year 1 as it is approved by USDE. Again, if you have specific concerns about the data you provided or that was posted, we will have a help form in the system for you to send your questions and concerns. Before I hand it over to Adrian to walk us, to click us through as I talk through the forms, the system launched today. So prior to this training, we did send out notifications to the ESSER contacts we have. What I want to remind you of is our ESSER contacts for this program include our approved contacts for the grant program. This includes a superintendent or a CFO, or I'm sorry, a superintendent and a CFO and a federal funds point of contact as listed in Ask TED. If that information is not up to date, you will have some work to do to get that up to date for this reporting system. So right now, those three contacts are receiving these notifications of the reporting system being open. In addition to that, the listed primary and secondary contacts from your ESSER3 applications are also included. So theoretically, you could have 5 individuals, if those are all different, that received a notification today that this report is open. If you have 1, 2, or fewer than 5 individuals that are listed multiple times in any of those areas, that would be the number of contacts who have access to this online reporting system. Most important thing you can do right now is ensure with your IT staff and support that you can receive email notification from this address, automation@app.smartsheet.com. This is where the individual notices will come to those who've been approved to be in this reporting system. I am going to stop sharing at that point, hit a brief mute so we can switch over to the online system. Again, while we're doing this, it's a good time to put your questions in Q&A. If you're putting those questions in chat, thank you to those answering other folks' questions, but please put them in the Q&A for the benefit of the whole group, and we'll take a quick pause to change screens. Okay, just get another visual. Nick, Natalie, we've got the online portal form. Great. So there will be an email communication again that went out today to those contacts, and it will link those LEA contacts to this portal. This is part of why we did not launch on March 1st. We have been trying to remove significant reporting burden on all of our school districts as we track the changes from USDE, and as you'll notice, realize that there are now 5 reports for 3 grant programs, which we know is no small feat for you to manage and collect data on. Given the timeline of this, even if we had started prior to this, we did not want to collect through Excel sheets or multiple submissions or put you through a system where you had to resubmit and could not save your data as you work. So we know you were anxious to start this early in March. We appreciate your patience, but we're hoping we've created a new system for this reporting that you can access at any time throughout the next month, and will help you to progress to completion instead of resubmitting separate forms every time we need to make a correction. So we're hopeful this is something new that will make your lives a bit easier in managing all of this. We know this is not our most exciting part of the program, but it does provide meaningful information to what these grants have done in our schools and communities. So I just want to point out the general layout is your kind of portal view, and then on the left where you see that blue underline breaks out each report and a help form. So first place we've tried to connect these is you have on the, we'll go to the, there's a little left panel. If you need more view of this, you can open or close it. But if you go to the middle where we have that USDE logo, we have your year 1 data, which is a link to that site, which we just covered. So it's in one place. Adrian, we'll go ahead and click through. It's a good time to see if it works when we're live across the state, right? There we go. Same screenshot we showed you before, so that you don't have to dig back through emails or slide decks to find this. Middle of the screen takes you directly to USDE. We will spend a little bit of time on this. In the last month, we sent out Excel sheets and Word documents to use as data collection tools for you. We cannot accept those as report submissions. We are not able to accept email attachments. It must be done through this system. So those USDE links, if you're so inclined, take you directly to the workable documents for each of these links to collect all of this data. We still suggest, if you're not comfortable yet with the online reporting system and still collecting data, that you capture all of your data in the Excel or Word documents, whatever suits your district the best, and then can aggregate and complete the online reporting within the next month. Again, you're able to share those documents through your own systems, your own share files, Google Docs, what have you, to build a comprehensive document that you can work from. You can also complete these reports as you go. So back to Adrian navigating us, the direct links to those resources are also right next to the logo, so you don't actually have to click too far to get to those. Below that, we're going to scroll briefly through the portal before we jump in. There are embedded screenshots of each report form. So this all aligns to what you see on the left. And so just to be mindful, this is test data, but you can access any one of these reports from this screen. We're going to do this from the left column as we dive into these a bit more. We're going to start with ESSER3 from ARP. When you receive this, any one of these will take you to, we'll have the title of the report. You'll see there, ESSER3. And then we have a brief columned breakdown of your LEA name. It should populate eventually a county district number and the list of all the contacts that are approved at this time. If you click on any one of these, it will open the report form. I know one of the questions we'll receive is, why is that report form so small? That is how the vendor at Smartsheet made it. So we know this is not the best view necessarily for this, but you can use, let's try this now. Can we zoom in and out without Adrian getting upset? We hit a control and zoom and see what we do on the form link a little bit. It will enlarge it a bit. So that's good to know for those in different browsers. But again, we urge you to collect your data in the documents and Excels. Each one of these letter headings aligns as best we can to the USDE reports. So in ESSER3, we're going to scroll through just a few of these and save and go back. We will review the alignment to the document. That's probably where most of our guidance will be, but each one of these headers will align to one of the areas in the USDE guidance documents. So you'll see at any one of these, Adrian is putting in $345 for summer enrichment set aside awarded, and there will be a save button that you'll want to select as it saves the data. And Adrian's going to put in $500 here for expended, which again we know is incorrect because he put 345. This is where we will validate and check, but you'll notice we are letting you submit your data and not correcting as you submit, because almost all of this is self-reported and not checking against any other information until we close the report window. So we will do validation, correction in the month after you submit. So now Adrian's going to say, it's lunchtime. I'm going to take a break and click out of this, and he's going to leave this report. Going to go all the way back to another and say, oh, actually, I'm going to do this one, and then say, no, I still really am going to have lunch. I don't want to look at that right now. Lunch is over. Adrian's a fast eater, and he goes back to ESSER3. He's not panicking at the load time. It gives him time to digest. He is scrolling through, and data is saved. Again, we hope that you're able to decide what works best for you and your school district. You can type in as you go and save. You can also keep local copy, which we always recommend local documentation in your Word document or spreadsheet. These screens are small for our training. Again, once you're in this system, you will be able to view the recording and zoom in, but this is the view we have for the training today. your user view can change when you're in the system. As he's completing this, Adrian could finish ESSER3, save it, and decide in the first week of April, we'll review this all again and walk away from it. Again, you want to keep local documentation of this. So we will have your data submissions through this system, but we strongly recommend, if you're collecting and aggregating with other teammates and colleagues, that you keep Word or Excel backup copy of this information. We will also be investigating a way to share your data after the reporting window closes, so you have a point in time snapshot of this. Each one of these items will go through the resources after we click through a few more aligned to the USDE guidance, which we'll look at. But all of these fields generally are dollar amount, whole number, or checkbox columns. There is no signature submit feature. You use the save feature as you complete this. And again, we fully anticipate you may be putting data in the system throughout the month and not finishing. The report will close once we hit April 11th, which is a Monday. We're not setting a time frame on it. We know those plans to do this over the weekend may change, but this will close April 11th. We will then look at data first thing April 12th to start to work through validations. We will be doing our best to review what is submitted as it's moving through that March 11th to April 11th window, but you should not expect requests for corrections broadly. We will reach out if we see significant issues, and we will be monitoring data and our help forum and help desk as well throughout the next month. But our goal is to give you this full month to collect and report data and to use our resources and FAQs as we get there. So we're going to look at two more forms at the top, which are different. We viewed ESSER3 because it's the largest report. ESSER2 and ESSER1 are somewhat similar, other than some of the questions about set aside and learning loss, but they're much more abbreviated than ESSER3. But you'll see how many questions we had to program and design into this system, because there is a lot of data that is being requested. Interventions is a new version of the report. Adrian's going to click through one of these. It is a bit lengthy, but it is based off any and all of the 3 grant programs and has questions about typically numbers of students, number of low income, and other questions. This applies to any of the 3 grant programs. And you'll see there are a number of items there. Please keep in mind, we know the amount of text here may not be as much as you would prefer to explain the question. The word choice is not ours, it is USDE. So if we've been made aware of this, terms like subgroup and others are not the most appropriate terms, but this is all taken directly from USDE's federal guidance on reporting. We were very careful not to change the wording of any of these requirements. But you'll notice in all of these report features, there is an alphabetic and sometimes alphanumeric coding to this, so you know which section you're in when you're completing this. And again, as we finish this part of the forms, we'll go back to the resources to show a little bit of alignment. Adrian's answering a few questions, again, hitting save, knowing it's Friday and he's only going to put another hour or 2 into this before he goes to spring break or has to go to some other duties at his district. And then when he comes back, he's going to go do the cross-act report. Again, this is one of 2 reports that is new compared to last year in terms of their structure. And this is, again, cross-act is a report that applies to activities in all 3 or any of these programs. This will not be a report that is specific to ESSER 1, 2, or 3. Cross-act is encompassing any and all of the 3 ESSER programs. And again, as Adrian is inputting information, I would ask if you're in Q&A or chat, we aren't going to be able to recognize raised hands given the number of folks attending today. Please put your questions in Q&A. We will also view the help form in just a little bit of where you can put questions or concerns. One suggestion as we were testing the system for those that may be multiple screen users would be to have the resources on one screen and the form in another. This is, I know it may seem like this overcomplicates it, but the online system is our best way to collect data from you and respond and get it correct. So we know we'll be learning much through this next month, and we will have a help formula review towards the end. But there's a link for the help form, which we will review. But I would just want to be, again, cautious that you are aware there are 5 reports. If you're an ESSER 1, 2, or 3 grantee, you will have a report for each of those. And if you are a grantee in any of these ESSER programs, even if you only applied and were awarded in one, you will have the interventions and cross-act reports to complete. Earlier today, when we sent a reminder on the registration, we sent revised data tools, which is a workbook and a Word document aligned to these. As we got more clarity, these are the 5 reports you will need to submit. So we're going to go back to the dashboard real quick just to keep Adrian's cursor moving. When we're looking at those reports, we want to go to the linked resources. There's a data dictionary. I don't necessarily recommend you read that first, but it is there. We will go to our ESSER3 to the linked resources real quick and pull that up and show you a little bit of a crosswalk. Those links will open a document, typically depending on your web browser at the bottom. If you have not begun collecting data in forms, these are the most comprehensive forms, but again, we also shared TEA modified versions to use as data collection sheets in our listserv that went out today.
Do you see my Excel?
I do, thank you. So if you select the USDE resources, this is the structure of their collection tools they provided. Again, best practice here would be not to fill in over those grayed out fields. They may mean something to you. They may not, depending on your level of comfort with data, but you can use this sheet to capture and save locally your information as you prepare. So for ESSER3, Adrian, if you'll scroll, we'll be using some of this to code how we review data, but this is a sheet for you to collect numbers, and it has a little bit of information in there about some of our calculations and things we will do, but I don't want you to get overly anxious about completing this. Remember, this is a resource. We will not be collecting this from you, and we will not be able to submit this. So this is why we have the online reporting system. But you'll see in some of these rows, they have examples of data. Again, you don't need to concern yourself too much with that formatting, as we'll correct it. But this gives you a kind of bigger picture. If this is not as helpful as our TEA modified resource, you can certainly use that as well. We'll have that posted. We sent it out to our entire listserv again this morning prior to this training. Adrian, we can close that one, please. And we will look at, we'll go ahead and look at cross-act and then interventions on the resources, please. So again, it's going to open an Excel tab for me. Similar structure, different, a little bit different schema to it with some different shading, but this is the cross-act. Again, this is the collection tool you can use to prepare your online submission. And cross-act applies to any and all of the ESSER programs where you are a grantee. So again, we've taken you straight to USDE's guidance here and their documents, so you can see actual numbers and sample data, and you can have a better view without being in the online reporting to review what the data should look like. Again, don't necessarily need to concern yourself with answering true or false, yes or no. When you're filling out the online report, you fill it out as directed. This is a collection tool for you to use that we'd provided previously last month to prepare for the report. and then interventions. So we will have some questions here that we have to report on. This is the full tool, so you want to be mindful of that as you collect it. We're collecting at LEA level many of these numbers to aggregate. So again, this is for ESSER interventions. You will want to use this to collect and prepare your data for the online system. You will notice as you review these, at the headers of each of these, there are indicators. A, students with one or more disabilities, there will be a number. So this will align to your online reporting as much as we can in titling and also in the structure. Adrian, if we'll finish scrolling through this before we move on. Interventions is a pretty lengthy report as well. So you want to be sure if you use these tools, you scroll through all pieces of it. But that's the review of the Excel and Word document resources provided by USDE that you can use as you're collecting and aggregating data. I don't think we need to click through or review anything else before we move on to help form or get into Q&A, but Adrian, if you will go to the help form. A couple of reminders again, you have to be able to receive emails from that automation at app.smartsheet.com, but this help desk is in the system. So if you are an approved contact and received the invitation for the online system, you would be the one that must request adding someone to this. I do want to let you know that as we checked and cleaned contact data, we had at least one contact, if not more, for every LEA, again, taken from your officially listed superintendent, CFO, and federal funds program person in ESSER, and we added your primary and secondary contacts from SR3. Some of these people have potentially changed, or that data may not have been updated. To add someone to your reporting system, generally, we will not be able to add an entire team. We can add up to one, maybe two in cases where you do not have more than one contact, but someone who is already approved to use this reporting system would submit a request to add additional access. So a couple of things for those that say, I did not receive a notice today and should be in the system. A few things can happen. One, you will have to check spam or junk. I would recommend reaching out with that email address and we'll populate that in the chat and Q&A eventually, but reaching out to IT, even if you've checked your spam and junk, to make sure you're not being prevented from seeing email notifications that don't even make it to your email or junk or spam or junk folders. Adrian's highlighting a few key points. Again, to add someone to report in this system from your LEA, they must be LEA emails. We know some grant submissions, some applicants, some email addresses, maybe Gmail, Hotmail, AOL, Yahoo, or others. We cannot accept those email addresses in this reporting system. Official emails only, no personal emails. So if you have access to the system and you know someone else will be assisting you or completing this, you would go to the help form, click request additional access, provide the email name and the role of the individual you would like to add in those fields. And then we have a certification statement that is standard. And then as an authorized official for this report, you would just put your name in there in lieu of a signature. For this report, you are authorized to submit. So you do not need to send this form to someone else at your LEA unless required to do so by your superintendent. This is authorized official for the purposes of this report and collection only. One of my favorite features here, and probably one of the most important, is that little button, send me a copy of my responses. We collect all of this, but it's always a good idea to collect a copy of your request. As we receive these, we will provide additional information to that. We will review and provide additional information to the individual or individuals you're requesting to add, but there will potentially be additional certification statements and forms for data security they must they must complete and submit. So again, what we will not be able to do is to add 10, 15, 8 people to this system. We are limited in the number we can add, and there will be additional steps that must be taken to approve someone to be in this reporting system, which is part and parcel of being able to do this and collect data so that you don't have to resubmit. Before you submit a request to add someone, I would consider who needs to complete this online report and how you're going to manage your Excel and Word documents to complete it. If you know your staff have changed, other examples of ways to add staff would be a program and fiscal contact for ESSER and others. But if you try to add multiple users based off every student subgroup or every report, there will be a cap and limit that we're required to for IT and security reasons. This is one of the first times at TEA we've been able to share with external users a report like this. We really want to be able to learn from it and do it again in the future, so that we can do this for future reporting and you don't have to submit multiple copies of the same report. So to help us do that, we do ask that you consider who needs to be in this system, making a reasonable request to add 1, maybe 2 if needed. And we do have a list that we'll be providing to you or your service centers on who's in the system. But again, you should receive that launch email. Backtracking a little bit, if you do not need to add additional access, but you have questions specific to this reporting form, the same form will be used and you would just report an issue or question. A couple things I want to point out in this. This is technical issues for the system, questions about users and permissions. If you place an FAQ content specific question about the definition or meaning or expenditure in this system, it will likely not make it to our FAQ system. We will do the best we can, but this is for reporting an issue or a question for access to the system or technical issues related to it. Again, you still have to do the certification and incorporation because we have the email access piece in there, but we urge you to use this. If you submit emails to grant support or other places, our ability to respond to you in a timely fashion in the next month will be greatly impacted. We have a team dedicated to this help form and this help desk so that we can capture everything and serve you as best we can. So urge you to use this help form. Again, this is not a help form that is open statewide. It is open to you as a reporting official and can be available for other email access if you follow those steps to add an additional person for reporting at your district. I don't know if we have any other helpful pointers for the help form or the links that we need to review. Adrian or Natalie, looking for our Zoom head nods or any verbal, anything else I've missed or that we need to capture?
No, I think you've covered it all.
So we are at, I believe 10 till 2. We are scheduled for 2:30. So this is our favorite part, questions. We're going to run through. We'll just give it a minute as we move over. We'll mute briefly, orient ourselves to the questions. Want to give folks time to remember to submit your questions in the Q&A. You can review those before you type your own question. If you see a question that is one you were going to ask, you can upvote it with the thumbs up. And we're just going to give a brief pause here. We're going to leave it on the online reporting system just in anticipation of questions. And we'll try to not screen hop too much. So we're going to give it a minute or two. Please go to the Q&A, vote up or add questions, and we'll take a minute to be ready to start addressing these and be right back with you. Okay. We've let some questions float to the top, and I already set Adrian up for failure. I'm actually going to have him stop screen sharing and go to the questions we've already posted, review those, and that will give us some time to clear out questions we've already covered. What we have done with our ESSER FAQ that we have had running since the start of the program is we have created a filtered FAQ for this report. So we're going to point to that. It is in the slides. It will be shared and it will be populated in chat as we close a little bit later so that you have all those resources. So I'm going to screen share this and show you what our team's been able to create. So I think we're seeing Nick, we're seeing the report you filtered. Let me move the bar. We are filtering out, we have filtered out for this view all of the FAQs that do not relate to USDE annual reporting. As we manage those questions in our FAQ about the content of this report, we will continue to add, you'll notice some posting dates in the updated columns. We will continue to post guidance on the report content here. Not too many of them right now, but we have a pretty good batch in review at agency level to post, hopefully in the next few days. But want to cover some of these questions, see if I can zoom in and do this because I know view for some is a little tricky. So I'm gonna run through these for FAQ. While we're doing that, Nick will close out questions that are addressed in this. They'll give us time to cover some of those. But here are a few of the questions that we had prior to the training that want to point out. And again, I apologize for the sound in the background here at the Capitol Complex at the TEA building. We have a persistent jackhammer or two outside, so I'm trying my best to speak over them. Hopefully it's not going to come through too bad in the recording, but here we go. Posted guidance for the USDE annual report. It says annual performance reports are required until all funds have been liquidated. Does this mean that for the LEAs the year after they have drawn down, they will no longer be required to submit a report? The approved guidance here, if an LEA has drawn down all of its funds in one of these ESSER programs, they will no longer be required to submit a report. However, we at TEA may still be required to submit an additional annual report on those activities. Again, this relates to the fact that these expenditures that you report are based off when you draw down. Next question, what does it mean when the column 5 says cumulative across all ESSER funds, but the note says this table is optional for ESSER 3? So this relates to the cross-act report likely. For some elements, we've labeled them as optional. So, and this is from USDE, so that states have advanced notice of what will be required. We hope this is helpful. This can also be confusing as USDE tries to be helpful and let you know what's coming. Here, the important thing to mention is those USDE templates, if you go to the linked resources, we have not modified. Those can be less helpful and orienting for the year 2 report if you use those. For that reason, you may want to use our TEA modified tools. The Excel workbook and the Word document will point to one last time today to collect data. But again, the USDE linked resources are unaltered based off what had been shared. Next question. When it says the total number of these specific positions support indicates salaries or benefits, does this include stipends? Yes, support includes stipends. I think we'll have some additional FAQs about strategic stipends and other questions related to that we'll post. And we'll review some of that when we get into the additional questions. Next question, column 6. Again, this is in the resources. List some specific staff like special educators and English as a second language. Would the counts in these tables be based upon personnel assigned to these positions or any LEA personnel that are certified for that? The counts in these tables, if you're using those resources and for this report, should be based on personnel assigned to the specific positions. A few more questions before we jump into the Q&A. The note at the bottom says that beginning year 3, the SR3 report will need to provide the amount expended by activity. Does this mean only for what was expended during that reporting year? Yes. Only the amount that was expended during that reporting year should be provided. Again, the reporting period closes based off state fiscal year. For ESSER 1, it's October 1, 2020 through the end of our state fiscal year, August 31st, 2021. For ESSER 2, 3, and the interventions and cross-act reports, those would cover that entire time frame if it relates to ESSER 1, and would also end August 31st, 2021, September 1 to August 31st, 2021. We'll do a screen share of those at the end through the slides. But again, this is based off the USD reporting period for the annual report. Question 7, column 6 says, indicate the number of students this program serves at full capacity versus total unique head count. What does at full capacity mean? So this is a question we had submitted to the USD help desk. Full capacity is based on the number of slots for students. Natural constraints can be the number of seats, the maximum student to teacher ratio, or the number the school sets for a particular program. So a couple of ways to indicate what full capacity might be. This is not a specific numeric response from USD, which some of you are accustomed to receiving, but that is the guidance on questions related to full capacity. And then we added for today, which is also linked through our resources in the online reporting system, where can the LEAs access their first year annual performance report? The link again is there. I know some are concerned about using this, but this is the approved data. It's important to remember that if you submitted year 1 ESSER reporting, much data cleaning, validation, and different review and correction were needed to get to this stage. This is what is approved for your ESSER 1 report. And in the prior year, we did not have the same definition of expended for this report. So again, if you have specific concerns about your LEA's publicly posted data for ESSER 1, you would need to use that help form and submit that as an issue that we could address with you specifically. But that link is to the approved ESSER annual performance report information that was reported in the prior year. See if I can do this. And we are now on the slides, correct? Nick, Natalie, did that work? You're seeing the slides? You were seeing, here we go, back to the slides, correct? Okay. Nick, I hope we've had a little bit of time to help some folks in Q&A, but I'm going to take questions from the top. We will be providing some written response to these as we're going. And then I will answer these verbally, and we will collect all of this after the training. So we'll try to type in some of these answers as we go. First question with most votes, how do you report indirect costs on the USD report? 2 things to note. In the expenditure columns, there is an other where you could report indirect cost. The thing you want to be mindful of here is you're reporting on actual drawdown. So if you draw down indirect costs in a final report, you would not report it if you did not draw it down by August 31st, 2021. Otherwise, you want to remain consistent through all reports, including indirect costs in the same field. And in the tools and in the online system, it shows other. So I'm going to stop share as I go to more questions, and Adrian can follow with the online report as we answer some more of these. But again, where do I report indirect costs? Would be in the other field of the expenditures, which we'll see in just a minute. But you're only reporting those if you actually drew down indirect costs for that grant. Adrian, you can go to ESSER 3 as I'm answering some of these, and then we'll take a pause if we need to point to a specific area. But for this example, as we go to amount expended from ESSER 3, and we keep going down, there will be areas, I think, as we get to the, yes, here we go. Amount expended by activity. There's personnel, there's benefits, there's supplies. And if we go a little bit further down, other items is one recommended place to report indirect costs if it's aggregated. Again, you do not report that if it was not drawn down in the reporting period by August 31st of last year. Nick, I'm going to go back to questions. You can clear them. I'm not going to remove them until you do. So at the top of the queue now, if we started activities during the reporting period but had not drawn down until after it, no, you do not include it if it is not drawn down. Your activities are not what dictate what you report. For this year 2 report, you're reporting on what you have drawn down from the ER system for these grants. If you drew down after August 31st of 2021, it is not captured on this report. That's probably the most jarring and confusing part of this. There's many months have passed since August 31st, 2021, but that data should be very solid. You do not report unless it was drawn down by that date for the reporting period. Again, we'll highlight those dates on screen again, but this is all based off drawdown, not when the activity occurred in pre-award or after. These don't align to today. These don't necessarily align to your own LEA's fiscal year. This is the guidance and the rule from USDE. It's based off state fiscal year. So you do not report after activity or drawdown after August 31st, 2021, and you do not report activity that was not drawn down by that date. Will there be a state compliance report for ESSER funds or just this? There is a state fiscal report, completely different. I'm not going to get into too much of the details. That's through, thankfully, through our great team in our expenditure reporting cash management team. There is a state fiscal report requirement from the state legislature, completely separate from this. The questions, the items we're required to ask are different. That's required by state government. This is required by federal government, but there is a state fiscal report. We send notification out for that as well through our Gov Delivery Bulletin. When completing section 5 on FTEs, this is where I'm going to read the question a little slower so Adrian can maybe go to where I'm about to point to. When counting number of students who participated, I think I'm jumping. When counting number of students who participate in programs, for instance, tutoring, are they single counts for the year or duplicate counts? These FTE counts are counts of the person. I don't believe we have any question about the amount of time they spent in any particular area. So that is expenditure. FTE counts will be for the staff person. There may be some areas where you have part-time and have to aggregate for full-time. But you will not be doing it based off the amount of time given a school schedule. Now I'm back to the top, broke my own rule. Sorry about that, Nick. We have a lot of voting and scrolling and I was a part of that. Do you include the final 1/3 ESSER amount even though we did not have access to it in August 2021? You only included if it was awarded and you drew it down by August 31st in that reporting period. For ESSER 1, you are only including drawdown activities October 1, 2020 to August 31st, 2021. For ESSER 2, 3, it is September 1, 2020 through August 31st, 2021. The answer will not change for that reporting period. That is USDE's reporting period. If you did not complete and receive, which we didn't by August, your final third, you could not have been awarded it. You could not have drawn it down. It would not be included. The USD reporting, has it gone out? Yes. Authorized reporting officials started receiving notification today. If you weren't vetted and approved reporting official through either AskTed as a superintendent, CFO, federal funds, main point of contact, or a primary or secondary contact on the ARP ESSER3 application, you would not have received this notification. And there is a place in the help form to request additional access, which would be available to the reporting official. That request must come from someone authorized to request that we add another user for this data system. If we have used all of ESSER 1 funds already, do we report this? If you drew down ESSER 1 funds in that reporting period, October 1, 2020 to August 31st, 2021, you must complete the report. Again, it's all expended, meaning drawdown for this report. You will still have to complete the cross-act and intervention reports, which affect all 3 grant programs and general questions that may be somewhat independent of how they were funded. What date is the LEA student enrollment demographic information by subgroup to be listed? You must be consistent, but we are recommending fall PEMS snapshot. Again, if you're collecting at another time, this is a reporting period by USDE. So it would be a PEMS snapshot in that reporting period window for the fiscal year, state fiscal year 9/1 to 8/31/2021. And in the case of ESSER 1, it started October. So all of these questions align to the USD reporting period. And we will have additional questions being approved and posted on our FAQ. So the answers we give today are still subject to change as we have review of FAQs to post. So again, remember that disclaimer, this is guidance at the current time and likely to change. On 3B10, if one FTE is paid with ESSER 1, 2, and 3, how do you report that? You report it in that report as one FTE. It is an FTE count for that grant fund. Any additional guidance on FTE counts? I believe we have questions at the USD help desk. If that changes, we will be updating that and providing that information through the reporting system and our general FAQ. Explain program available to all students. Does this mean all students in the district? What if a program is only made at one campus for a single grade? Is the answer then no? Under what circumstances does the student group information need to be completed? Only if additional services are provided. So there was an optional report for a school campus level. We are not collecting, that is not required. You will complete these 5 reports based off the district. And I think we will have additional guidance posting on anything and what made available means, but we'll add that to the FAQ as well. Just want to reiterate here, the 5 reports we're requiring are ESSER 1, 2, 3, cross-act and interventions. There is a link on the USD resources that is a schools report for campus level. Because we award at district level at TEA and there aren't sub-awards, we're not requiring that and are seeking confirmation there. So we do not have that schools report that you may see in the Excel tools provided by USD. Good question. Again, it's gonna relate to reporting, but remaining funds are the funds remaining after all previously reported expenditures and expenditures reporting and the current reporting period are deducted, correct? Remaining funds for year 2 report would be, I'm gonna try to speak to the math here that we'll be working on, would be your previously reported ESSER 1, for instance. If you were doing ESSER 1, it would be what you were awarded, what you previously reported to USDE at that link. And Adrian, if you can point to that as we go there. Then your drawn down expenditures in the current reporting period. That would give you your remaining funds. Again, this is all based off drawdown. So your remaining funds for this report is a bit retrospective, but it's remaining funds after August 31st, 2021. There are some other areas that have planned uses of funds, which would also be planned uses of funds you may have actually engaged in activity on since August 31st, 2021. I think this question goes back to our original guidance. So 3D1 requests the 20% set aside amount. Is that based on the final allocation that came out in the fall of 2021? Now, I believe we've posted this in our FAQ and we'll highlight it, but the 20% set aside is based off the entire award.
Yes.
For SR3, yes. So again, given the reporting timeline and things of that nature, this can be a little more complicated, but the 20% set aside is over the entire SR3 program. We will pull that guidance from our FAQ and tag it to the filtered USD annual report question and see if we need to update it in any way. But the 20% set aside is for the entire program. You are still reporting actual drawdown up to August 31st, 2021. Where is the report? Is it in Teal or emailed to CFO? The linked resources are available at the USDE site. We're sharing them broadly. Anyone in the state and really out of the state that's on our listserv or accesses the ESSER page will be able to receive the collection tools we provided. This report portal has only been provided at this time to a superintendent, CFO, and federal, I think in STED it calls it ESSA or federal funds point person, if they have been provided in STED, and we added primary and secondary contacts at the district level. We know sometimes these change. We have an option in the help form for someone who's already approved to receive this report to add someone to the field. In the instance where we have no ability to reach out to anyone that receives the report, we would work through our ESC technical assistance providers to get someone connected. But we had at least one contact that we were able to approve for this reporting system for every district or every LEA. I think we found one maybe where we had to go looking for a contact. But again, as of now, without requesting to add a reporting official, we have this being provided to every LEA and district. No system is perfect. We will be providing technical assistance throughout the month through this help form and the ESSER team here to address access issues and requests. To be clear, if I did my drawdown for August 2021 in November, I would not include them. Correct. If you did not do drawdown by August 31st of 2021, you do not report it. If I did an allowable activity of some kind on to any activity on August 20th, and then I did drawdown in September, I would not report it for this report. When and how will I report ESSER ESSER Supplemental is a state level program. It's not required by this. We will address that in other trainings and guidance. This is the federally required ESSER programs. So in this case, we will handle ESSER Supplemental from SR3 separately from this reporting system, and we'll provide additional guidance. But this is today's training and presentation is only for the USDE nationally required reporting for any and all school districts. I'm going to try to slow down a bit for Nick. I think he's handling some of these questions, and I'm going a little bit fast. We've got about another 15 minutes. So I know we won't get through all of these, but the vote counts are going down. So I urge you to add questions and then vote them up. Again, we will capture all of these. If you put them in Q&A, we'll capture answers. So even if we don't address the question, we're going to try to aggregate and work through these to provide more FAQs to post. Subsection C, allocation of ESSER resources within LEA. If salaries or programs are paid for the campuses through curriculum department and district level, do we include in this section? Only for expenditures coded to campus or used by the campus. Subsection C, if salaries or programs are paid for the campuses through curriculum department and district, you're reporting them at district level. The expenditure amount, the FTE counts, the grant was made to the district. And to my knowledge, we do not allow subgrants, which means we are not requiring a campus level report for this reporting at this time. If we have additional guidance on how to report that, we'll put it through the FAQ, but you're reporting at district level as the subrecipient of these grant funds. 4B2 references EdFacts. We're going to flag that to put some direct links in the FAQ. Will be a data source we can use. I don't think we'll have the time to show it directly here for EdFacts unless someone on the team has an extra set of hands or keys to pull it up. But EdFacts will be a resource for this reporting. We will put that to the FAQ to provide it through our USDE annual reporting filtered FAQ report. What does high dosage tutoring refer to? Is it required to be outside of the school day? I'm not aware of a requirement of tutoring to be inside or outside of the school day for the report, but we will put that through for definition from USDE. At this time, if you have a local definition of this that's documented, you could use that, but I don't believe we have a federal definition of that for this report yet. If we do, we'll add it to the FAQs, or we will do additional research to provide guidance on high dosage tutoring. We have several saying at the time of this presentation, I have not received an email. That is entirely possible if you are not one of those contacts, or if you have email filters at your school district. we will review that guidance again at the end, but you may not have received that. So we will keep track of anyone that made a comment on this and do the best we can. But initial notification of this report was sent to the updated superintendent, CFO, and federal funds staff listed in ASTED at your district. If those are out of date or have changed and not been changed in ASTED, we would not be able to provide it to them at this time, and would be included. Adrian's doing a really good nonverbal there. Or we would also include your primary or secondary contact from the application. If you were not one of those individuals, or you were using a personal email, you would not have received this. We are still getting a lot of notices. We did not receive this. Again, you must reach out to IT and check for your automations email to make sure those are received. And we will do a screenshot of the email address again. We fully anticipate resending this several times, but we won't be able to control your IT security or changes to personnel that had not been updated. You cannot forward this email to someone else for access because they would not have received it. So email forwarding, we are not allowed to operate this data system with email forwarding. And if you had a personal email or not a district level email, there are many things I could go through that would have kicked out the email. I urge you to not panic. We will be sending this out again. Some of us, I was not told not to say this, but some of us will be working through the weekend to send these out again. So you must take steps to ensure, and we will share this with you again and show you on screen, that it is not in your spam or junk folders, and that it is not being blocked by IT even before it reaches those folders. Also, you want to ensure, if you have a list of individuals at your district you know should be included, and you've received nothing, you can send this through the report and issue question for us to investigate, but we will require you to add them in the form or have to submit some additional forms to those personnel if we can't verify them as a change. Any other issues we may have in launching the system, we will do our best to address them as quickly as we can. If district did not draw down any funds for 2 or 3, they would have no reports. Correct. For those expenditure related questions for ESSER 2 or 3, if you had no drawdown up to August 31st, 2021, it would not apply. It's only drawdowns in that time frame of that reporting period. We will provide additional FAQ guidance about who received this. We will be providing lists of who those contacts are. We know your IT will be checking during the webcast. We understand you want to receive these now. Again, we will be sending these out again. We will verify lists, and we will review all of our contacts to ensure they are up to date, and resend those again after this presentation and ensure we fix any technical issues if there are any. I'm going to answer this one more time, and then we will stop with the reporting period because I know it can be confusing. And I know some of these came in earlier, but could you please again clarify when expenditures would be included? And then after this, Nick, we will clear these out. But for report period 2, we are aware that guidance in last year's report may have differed, but for year 2, you are only reporting activities where funds were drawn down within the time frame September 1 to August 31st of 2021 for ESSER 2 or 3, and October 1, 2020 for August 31st, 2021. Is there a legitimate instance in which to use not yet planned for a specific use? It's provided by USDE, so that's something you would determine. One piece of guidance is if you have a use of funds plan and you're in ESSER 3, you should have planned uses for those funds, and you would strongly want to consider using what those use of funds plans are in planned uses. But there may be instances where you have not yet planned for a specific use. That is a legitimate response in the report. Going to clear through a few more. See if we have any others. Again, apologize for the construction noise in the background here at the TEA offices. Would ed technology for all students mean that every single student enrolled received a device, or does it mean there's simply no discrimination? There is not a one-to-one device requirement in this report that I'm aware of. We'll seek that clarification, but this would be ed technology either in amount of expenditure or number ordered. I don't think we asked that question, or USD asked that question of number of devices. Nick?
No, not yet. We have requested clarification of what educational technology is defined as, but we have not on the one-to-one kind of stuff.
Great. Yeah. So again, right now there is no expectation that you only report if it's one-to-one. We will pause in a bit and put all this information in on who the email is coming from. I appreciate you all asking that in chat. We will get to that as we answer a few more questions and send that information out. A good question here. If you're looking at the federal resources, there appear to be two sections. One is ESSER reserve amount and the other titled ESSER mandatory subgrant. If you use the federal resources provided, there will be a SEA reserve section you do not complete. It's one of the pitfalls of giving you all of the resources is there are sections in those USDE links that take you to spreadsheets with information you do not provide. Again, if you prefer just to see what you are reporting, we will again send out our TEA modified resources that remove much of what USD included that you do not need. To confirm, we already use amounts for SR1 from the USD website and not what was drawn down. Correct. What the definition of expenditure and guidance from ESSER from annual report year 1 to this year has been specifically clarified and is different. We recommend you use the approved, posted, publicly available year 1 report information that we shared during the presentation. I'm gonna do a few more in the last few minutes and we will still capture these. We'll review what steps to take if you didn't receive an email. There will be some that may not have received it right away. We'll address that. We were anticipating that being one of the biggest needs. We addressed using your fall snapshot, but again, you want to be mindful of the reporting period, which closed August 31st, 2021, determining the snapshot you will use. I think we will stop there with questions. I'm going to, Adrian, ask that you go back to the portal real quick before I switch back. Again, this report portal will be sent from the system to who we have as your approved reporting officials. We'll get to that in just a minute. Your USD links to the right of the USD emblem, your prior year 1 data will be to the left. And then from this page, you'll have your submissions as you scroll through, or you can use the menu to the left, which includes the help form. Adrian, from that point, I'm going to switch over to the share screen. And I'm going to ask, I think we're populating the email address in the chat as well. We will put it in the FAQ, but want to click through a few more of these before we close. So again, I want to highlight a few things. The reporting period for this USDE annual report is October 1st, 2020 through August 31st, 2021 for ESSER 1. And then for ESSER 2 and 3 and the interventions and cross-act reports, September 1, 2020 through 8/31/2021. May have had an extra 20 in there. August 31st, 2021. You do not report anything not drawn down in those timeframes for these reports. Probably not a great time to show how many times we'll be doing this in the years to come. So I'll casually scroll through those. Here's a snapshot of the timeline again. This reporting window is open through April 11th, 2022. We will be going back to who received those emails. If we notice a significant technical issue on our part that prevented you from being in the online system, we will, as we always do, extend this reporting period for you at the expense of our own timeline to aggregate the data. But for now, we will go through the steps. If you did not receive an email, I'm going to go through the definitions. If you're staying with us till the end, I will put this slide deck in the chat. This is the email address. I think it's been shared in chat, automation@app.smartsheet.com. Most important thing you can do is alert your IT now, because we will resend these as much as we can to folks that are having issues receiving the email. But again, this was launched today prior to the training. Does not necessarily mean it was received right away, and there could still be issues and who was listed as your reporting contact. So we covered Q&A. We've put the link in the chat for our filtered view of the USD annual report. We will continually work to improve this tool and add questions to it. You want to hold on to this link. It will be in the reporting portal as well, but this will allow you to see just USD annual report information. You still use the same FAQ link on the TEA ESSER page for any content level questions. This is the same link we've had LEAs use for allowable uses of funds, grant requirements. Technical questions about the reporting, once you're in the system, go to that help form that Adrian showed us, as well as requests to add people to the system. But this is our still standard FAQ link for guidance. Again, there's a reporting period. You can see how important it is to frame all of your questions in relation to this reporting period. We know this is not easy to be in the space of something that was so long ago, but these are the reporting periods from USDE for this report. And again, this is all based on your drawdown from the TEA system, not planned activities, not a pre-award activity date. It's when it was drawn down within this time frame. Timeline again, just to point to this, right now the system closes for LEAs April 11th, Monday. We will be beginning to upload data to USD by May 16th. We have a short reporting window, shorter than yours, but want you to be mindful of completing this information and submitting it. Again, if you're struggling with the online system and we have some steps to take, you can use the reporting tools we provided in the Gov delivery we sent today to continue to collect this data as we get the online system opened up for those that have technical issues. And again, some date in the future will be this information will be posted to the USDE site. We'll drop the Adobe, the PDF copy of this in the chat in just a second for folks, and we'll leave this running just a little bit longer to grab it. We will also send this out with the recording, but there's our general ESSER page, our main comprehensive FAQ, and the YouTube playlist, which is where we'll post the video.